Joining me now is Jack Schlossberg, Democratic candidate for New York's 12th Congressional District, which covers a large part of Manhattan. Jack, I'm so glad to have you here. It's good to see you, and nice to meet you this way.
You too. Thanks so much for having me. Good morning. Happy Father's Day, everybody.
Yeah, thanks. And to all the fathers out there, too. Jack, you are vying for Jerry Nadler's seat, and the field is pretty crowded. Recent polls have Michael Asher, Alex Boris in the lead. How are you feeling? How confident are you feeling going into Election Day?
We've been outside the early voting poll sites all week, and we feel very good about what's happening on the ground in our internal polls as well. You know, I've learned a lot over the course of this campaign, and one of those things is especially watching on the corners of street corners around this district, being up close with my opponents. I think I might be the only one who likes people. I love doing this. This is the best. It's been the best week of my life, and we're really excited about today and Election Day as well.
What have you learned about yourself being out there with the people? I've seen you out there, too, shaking hands at subway stations, subway stops, and running around town. And, I mean, you seem to be everywhere. What has it been like on a personal level for you?
It's been the most fun I've ever had, putting together a team that's working 24/7 around the clock on something that we really believe in. I think the Democratic Party needs to do better. We need to change the channel, put on a better show than what we've been putting on, and pass policies that people actually care about. You know, I've been thinking about and listening to the problems that New Yorkers tell me they have. One of them is housing, and rent has never been higher here in Manhattan. We got to pass my standard renter's deduction to make New Yorkers deduct their rent from their taxes. We are seeing a groundswell of support as well for No PAC Jack. That's what they call me because I don't have a super PAC. This race, people should know, has been flooded with millions and millions of dollars from Republican billionaires through super PACs for Alex Boris and Michael Asher. And I'm proud to say I don't have one. Our average contribution is $30, and we're a people-powered movement.
Up at 88th and East End is Gracie Mansion, where the mayor lives, and this is in the district that you are running to represent, but he has not weighed in on your race. And during early voting on Saturday, he was asked about this. Let's watch this real quick.
I'm going to be keeping my vote in this race between myself, the ballot, and that incredible pen that the Board of Elections gives to every voter.
You were a big supporter of his. What do you think is up with his non-endorsement?
I think the mayor has been doing a great job for this city, and I'm not about to question his political judgment. He knows what he's doing.
Do you take it personally?
No, not at all. We're excited. I think, New Yorkers want the kind of campaign that we're running. I've got a plan to make Donald Trump pay the $300 million it's costing New York City to protect and have the perimeter around Trump Tower with the NYPD. I want to take that money and invest it in cops, teachers, and transit. New Yorkers are sick and tired of a politics that is broken, an establishment that has not been able to stop this president. And we know we got to do better, and that's why we need a new generation to step up who believes in public service.
The Democratic Party, everywhere I go, seems to be split, including here in L.A., in our mayor's race, split between more establishment Democrats and the more progressive caucus. Where do you see yourself on that continuum?
I reject the continuum entirely. I'm a Democrat. I bleed blue. I love my party. We've got a great history to be proud of. And, I want to be a bridge, somebody who can look at issues individually, evaluate them, and try to get the right answer. Because if we're not trying to get the answer right, then what are we doing here?
On Israel, I've been watching this campaign so closely. You have been particularly outspoken. 3 weeks ago, you posted on Instagram, no weapons to Israel. But now you say only offensive weapons. Where are you today?
I don't consider that to be a change whatsoever. I don't consider the Iron Dome missile defense a weapon. It can only be used to strike down other missiles. So I consider I'm the most progressive by far, by a mile, on the question of Israel. I'm proud to say that I support the Block the Bombs Act and to stop sending bulldozers to the West Bank to occupy land that's in violation of international law. I also think that the U.S. and Israel should continue to hope for better days between our two countries. And I'm the only candidate in this race talking about peace. We're the peacemakers. We got to find a solution to this problem. It's not really about talking points. It's about bringing people to the table and having a foreign policy strategy in this country. Right now, we don't have any. And so I want to make sure that our country is leading the world once again. And that starts with electing new members to Congress.
When I talk to people, I got a lot of friends in the district, too, and I spent a lot of time in your district. I always talk about how where I live, Los Angeles in California is the most unaffordable city and the most unaffordable state in the union. but it sure feels pretty comparable in your district or your potential district. When people say that they can't survive and that they feel like they got to look somewhere else to live, or that one job is not enough, how do you personally connect with that and with them?
Well, I hear it from people every day. I grew up here, and the city has changed a lot. People have been pushed out. Many people who used to work here can no longer afford to live here. People that I grew up with don't think that they can raise a family here, and that's terrible for the city. So that's why we've got real plans to help out New Yorkers. Again, my renter's deduction. We also want the child tax credit to be increased by $200 and take that $1 billion that the president has appropriated from his already paid-for ballroom and give it to increase the child tax credit and make it paid out monthly. We've got a number of plans to address affordability here in the city because that is a top concern for so many New Yorkers.
You, in the spirit of Father's Day, you have not made your family and your family history a big part of this campaign. And in fact, one of the most powerful parts of that one debate is when you said I'm Ed Schlossberg's son. But you have weighed in and have been asked to weigh in on all kinds of things, including but not limited to the Kennedy Center. That tarp is still up. It was supposed to come down last week, and Trump said on Friday he's still considering a partial closure of the Kennedy Center. How has this particular saga impacted you, and how are you watching this play out?
Well, look, President Trump has been attacking the progress made by the greatest generation and generations that came after them in building a progressive country here in America. And he's attacking President Kennedy's legacy, of course, renaming the Kennedy Center. President Kennedy elevated the arts and thought the arts were our best defense against authoritarianism around the world. And it was a time when he invited black artists to the White House. President Kennedy led our society by encouraging free expression, and President Trump has done everything to discourage it. I think President Trump, we should all take personally, just because President Kennedy is being attacked, he represented a generation of Americans. We should all take this personally because the damage that is being done by this president is something that we're all going to have to be cleaning up for no less than the rest of our lives.
At this time when politics feels every day increasingly polarized, spaces like the Kennedy Center, I guess, are still, in theory, a unifying force. But Trump's approval, I want to look at Trump's approval ratings because I think that people see right through this. And in an interview with Axios this week, he called the polls fake. Let me play this for you and get your thoughts on the other side. Watch this for a second.
Every presidency has a life cycle.
Yeah.
And as a president comes to in a second term to his last midterm, his party usually loses control of the House. His poll numbers usually start to decline, and he starts to weaken. And that's happening to you.
No, it's not. Fake polls. I have great poll numbers.
How do you maintain?
I would beat any candidate they have by 25 points.
Well, how do you maintain?
I have great poll numbers.
What do you see there? What are your thoughts?
Well, look, polls have been wrong about President Trump consistently time and time again. So I don't put as much faith in polls as I used to. However, what do you expect from a president who has been known to say exactly the same thing every time he's challenged? I also, I would not take for granted that this is his last term. I believe that President Trump is going to try to stay in office, which is why this midterm election cycle is so critical for the Democratic Party, because we don't have time to try the same thing over and over again because it hasn't worked yet. And if we aren't willing to elect a new kind of leader who understands the political environment and new media environment that we live in, we will continue to lose. And President Trump should not be underestimated and should be taken very seriously at his word. He just said right there that he could beat anyone they put up against him by 25 points. That sounds to me like he's thinking about who his next opponent's going to be, and he shouldn't be running for in another race.
Jack, this show is called Connect, and I have watched you connect in a very personal way with the people of New York as you've participated in this campaign. And you also lost your sister at the very beginning of it and have been so vulnerable and open about what it has been like to be a candidate in the wake of that tragedy for your family. What have you learned about yourself doing all this?
I'm a resilient person, and I've always been the same person that I am today, and that's someone who believes that hard work is how you get things done and you got to power through and not to succumb to the emotions that tell you to stop or to quit, because in the end of the day, no day on this planet is guaranteed, and it's convinced me that I got to make the most out of my precious time here on Earth. So it's only spurred me on, and it's been an honor to run as a candidate in my hometown, the place I love the most, place I think that is the center of the whole universe and the most important place and district in the country.
Jack Schlossberg, it's really nice to talk to you. Thank you so much for being here, Democratic candidate for New York's 12th congressional district. Appreciate it.
Thank you.